Welcome back. You're still watching World Insight with me, Tian Wei. How do we preserve and nurture culture for prosperity? Throughout the ages, culture flourished throughout people and monuments, objects, and the arts. Their loss is a big blow to the world heritage. Iraq is one of those very important examples. The victory over ISIL was declared in 2017, but the country is still a long way from recovering what has been lost. Where there were once streets and buildings are now bare ruins and dirt. Antiquities from civilization as old as hundreds and even thousands of years ago have been damaged and looted, but global restoration efforts are underway, one step, though, at a time. As the Conference on Dialogue of Civilization will take place later this month in Beijing, we look back to an interview I did with the former Iraqi Minister of Culture, Tourism, and Antiquities. But before that, here's a quick look at the extent of the damage we've seen over there.
A civilization in ruins. Hatra, Iraq, once a UNESCO heritage site from the time of Alexander the Great, is now reduced to dust and rubble at the hands of ISIL. Mosul, Iraq, a city where priceless historical objects came under the hammer in similar attacks.
It's a part of everyone's history. It's a part of the people who are destroying these objects. It's a part of their history.
Syria's culture and heritage are also in the claws of ISIL, ground into dust by violence and destruction. Calls for the United Nations to do more are increasing.
They are persecuting and uprooting them from their homes and erasing all traces of their history.
The relics and treasure that a terror group does not destroy in Syria and Iraq are sold for a hefty profit. It is believed some precious items have already traveled to elsewhere through internet deals and black market trade. Without an expert eye, the goods often pass right through security checks.
Your average customs official will know if he sees a kilo of cocaine that it's automatically illegal. But if they're seeing an ancient pot, they don't know in some cases whether it's just a tourist trinket or if it's a 3,000-year-old urn.
As these historical artifacts pass through borders and ownership illegally, one can only imagine the further loss these countries feel. Syria and Iraq, once home to the most ancient and grandest civilizations, are now turning into a land of nothingness as they recover from their scars of war.
When you have the planes, when you have the ground forces, very much likely cultural heritage also being destroyed. What do you make of this? Is this necessary collateral damage or not?
We in a cabinet send a very good message to the military, Iraqi military, Peshmerga, and even paramilitaries. And we said that the archaeological sites, heritage sites, should be safeguarded by Iraqi army, but we can't control the Daesh, of course. This is something different. No one likes to hear the news about fighting. You know, we are human beings. We like to live in harmony together and in peace.
But particularly, you're the Minister of Cultural Protection. You know, in wars,
yeah,
things are going to be destroyed.
Yeah, of course, because since 2003, almost 15,000 pieces in Iraq been stolen and destroyed. Only we get back almost 4,000 of these pieces has been stolen and illicitly trafficked to the European and other countries. So it is not easy when it is a matter of looting, trafficking these archaeological pieces, and it gain money not only for ISIS but even for those people are trading with these pieces. This is not new for Iraq because we living in under such kind of circumstance since 1980 when the fighting were going on between Iraq and Iran, and after them the occupation of Kuwait, the National Alliance attacked Iraq, and After the collapse of Saddam Hussein, we've been fighting Al-Qaeda, then we fight ISIS. And therefore, it is not a new news for us. But of course, no one in Iraq like to have such kind of life. For example, me, I'm from Kurdistan of Iraq and from Suleymaniya. I drive my car by myself in Suleymaniya without any bodyguards. But in Baghdad, I have, when I go to my office, I have more than 20 bodyguards with me with a convoy of the armored car. This is not alive if you compare it with a regular and basic line of life. ISIS is not the phenomenon related to Iraq as a country, but is related to the Middle East and the international community and the whole world. Not defeating them only on the battleground, but defeating them ideologically through doing a lot of jobs in these societies, especially in Iraq, in Syria, Northern Africa, and even in Saudi Arabia. Because the Daesh is a very dangerous phenomenon. It's not differ between who are you? Are you from Iraq, or are you from France, or are you from Poland? The issue is Daesh, in his mind, there is something, is the ideologically, they go back to 1,500 years ago. And they want to adopt this kind of ideology now. They don't know what is going on, or at least they want to refuse every development that's happening rapidly today in the world.
Thousands of years ago, important developments were taking place in Mesopotamia, now known as Iraq. On the floodplains of the rivers Tigris and Euphrates, fertile soil brought down from the mountains by the rivers gave rise to a much denser population.
1 square mile is city, 1 square mile is orchards, 1 square mile is clay pits, as well as the open ground of Ishtar's temple. 3 square miles and the open ground comprise Uruk.
Here, one of the early 4 ancient civilizations was born, the ancient Babylons. Under an organized government, this was where mankind first began to read, write, create laws, and live in cities. They were also the first to use the wheel, and the invention of the wagon was a transportation revolution for farming and trade. And during this time, architectural structures such as the dome, column, and arc were created. The rich and remarkable historical, cultural, and artistic legacy of ancient Iraq have since fascinated and inspired humanity for centuries.
Humanity across the history and is a common ground which bring together all the nations to understand that the civilization in Middle East and even in Iraq is not owned by Iraqi people, but is a civilization for everyone.
Mr. Minister, one of the problems when you have war going on to protect the cultural heritage is the looting. The looting is not only because of the people who looted, but also because of the people who buy from the looters. And those people are not just inside your country, they're also from all over the world. What can you do about this?
Actually, we can do little, because the sullen actions across the world, and especially in Europe and United States of America, they don't care why this piece is from Iraq or not, is looted by Daesh or not. And this is the problem. Therefore, we asking every time in conferences, meeting, workshops, that the convention should be changed, the law should be changed, because they know certainly that this piece is from Iraq, but because it is not recorded in Iraq, or because it's not given a certain number for it in our museum or wherever. Therefore, they think that this is not belong to Iraq. I think it is very important that salons and even international communities and the states across the world realize that these pieces should go back to the origin countries. Otherwise, the looting, illegal trafficking, and illegal auctions in the salons are going on without taking any action.
Which part of the international convention, which part of the international law do you think, Minister, according to you, should be changed for that?
I think Europe and United States of America first.
Let me go to another question, also important for your country. You are such a country with rich cultures and very different kinds of ethnic groups. For example, yourself, Kurdish. There are other officials who are coming from other ethnic groups. The question is, what kind of culture to be protected? As a minister, are you going to protect Kurdish culture mainly? How is the balance going to be kept?
No, I think the civilization in Mesopotamia is not related to Arab or to Kurd or to Turkmen or to other ethnic group. It is related to the whole people in the country. Therefore, tangible and non-tangible heritage should be protected by Iraqi people, by Iraqi government, whatever these tangible and tangible related to Kurd or to Arab or to Turkmen, because all together they shared to build such kind of civilization. And this is the important thing. And I think that we in Iraq, we don't differ between this civilization in north or southern of Iraq or in other areas.
Mr. Minister, I know you have a lot of work to do, but all the best to you and your colleague. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.